Welcome to CIS 101. Last class, we talked a little bit about what is a network. We talked a little bit about networking and communication applications. We talked a little bit about the types of network. We talked a little bit about how data can travel over a network. We talked a little bit about communication protocols. And we talked a little bit about networking hardware. And I want to stress, we have an entire class that covers just that chapter in tremendous detail, and there's serious money to be made. What we talked about last week was very much, last class, was very much an inch, a mile wide and an inch deep, a little bit of a lot of stuff. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Chapter 8, Digital Devices and Media and Managing a Digital Lifestyle. And, for many of us, just a pure pursuit of knowledge, is all we need. But for there are those of us that have to pay bills. The utility companies, the mortgage companies, the landlord, the stores, they want to get paid. And I'd like to stress that a network engineer salary in the Chicago area, River Grove, makes about $73,000 a year, which is above the national average, and is way more than the average household income in the U.S., which last year was $60,000. This job by itself is making way more than the average family is making in the U.S. Just something to think about. And, salaries related to this, starting out with like no experience, just an associate's degree, you can expect to make 64, and as you gather experience, you're going to very quickly make a whole lot more money. Just food for thought. And specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about mobile devices, a little bit about the basics, about how our phones work, how the stuff in our car works, the power of smartphones, and mobile commuting, which is becoming more ubiquitous and is taking more and different forms by the year, by the 6 months really. And we're going to specifically talk a little bit about how digital convergence has evolved, the differences between digital and analog signals, the technologies used to communicate across cellular networks, how to effectively use cellular devices and mobile internet access, and how to keep your devices secure, which is getting to be harder to do all the time. And we'll talk a little bit about the range of different mobile computing devices and how to evaluate which mobile device is appropriate for a specific user. We'll talk about e-readers. We'll talk about purchasing, borrowing, and publishing e-texts, how digital music is created and stored, how to stream and publish digital music, how to best create, print, and share digital photographs, and how to create, edit, and distribute a digital video. Okay, and I want to stress as we get through the halfway point, some things I want you to think about. One, it's not fun, necessarily having to, go to a class at a set time. My kids are having to go to school, and on the one hand, they like going to school. On the other hand, they don't like going to school because it's their job. I tell them, this is your job. Dad has a job. You have a job. Your job is going to school. Nobody is going to make you, attend class and do all the work each week. Okay? And I want to stress to you that you can do all the work and have A's in the classes and still be dropped for a lack of time in class. You got to post those lectures every week. Okay? You need to get in your labs, your quizzes, your midterm, your final, and you have to make your weekly attendance. Okay? And every semester, this semester is and last spring were a little unusual. I had students that literally forgot about coming to class or just waited till the last couple of weeks and then emailed me and said, can I just get everything in right now and okay? And they were surprised that they got dropped from the class because, just like a job, if you don't show up for your job for 2-3 weeks a month, they're gonna let you go. They're gonna fire you unless you work for the mayor, in which case, in Chicago, in which case things may be a little different. But any place else, they're gonna let you go. In class, same thing. If you do not make your attendance, okay, and getting in your weekly posts will do that, and you get extra credit, as I said before. If you show up during the class time. Getting, is a crucial part of ensuring that you're not dropped from the class. And the reason why this class, the reason why any 2-year, 4-year degree is so valuable, doesn't matter what it's in, okay, is because employers are hiring, and when they have a choice, they prefer to hire somebody with that degree because whether or not it's relevant to the job, it shows persistence. It shows a willingness to stick to doing something and getting it done even when you'd rather not. And that's extremely valuable to employers. Companies hate it. People hate it when they're counting on somebody to show up for work and they just don't. Okay? They just said, the heck with it, I'm not a gonna. Okay, when we talk about digital basics and digital convergence, we're talking about increasingly having a single unifying device that can, and for many of us it's a smartphone or a little or a tablet, that handles our media, our internet, our entertainment, and telephone needs. And I'll be the first to say that I purposely, deliberately limit what I will do with some of my things. For example, my phone is for text messages, pictures, and conversations, and I deliberately don't use it for other things unless I'm trying to kill time, because I don't want people to get in I like people, getting used to my not being available at sometimes. I don't want to be available 24/7. I don't want people to think that I'm available 24/7. But in addition to our smartphones, we're increasingly seeing the electronic systems in our cars, and this is both a good thing and a bad thing, become more and more capable. And I think you'll see down the road, for those people who are willing to pay for it, the electronic system package for a car will essentially act as a smartphone, or possibly, and we're seeing that already, allow your phone to be plugged in and act as a part of it. Flip side of it is, if you don't want to pay that money, if you don't want to go that route, you may just simply, and people do this, I know that I take Uber or Lyft drives, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, the person's phone is mounted on their dash and acts as their GPS. They don't have to, but increasingly it's what they do. Or, in fact, every time I've been on Uber and Lyft, it's what they do. And there's also something called the Digital Living Network Alliance. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Okay. Want to stress to you that any kind of information can be digitized. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. You're listening to me now as an analog waveform as I speak into my computer to make this video. But it's being stored, it's being processed and stored as digital information, and it's going to be played back to you digitally and converted to analog at the very last step in the process so that you can hear it. We use the term telephony, okay, which includes the use of the equipment that we use to provide voice communications over a distance. And I want to stress to you that most of us, when we're having a phone conversation, we're just worrying about the phone conversation, is the signal clear or not. Most of us, including myself, tend not to think about, most of the time, all the things that are going on in the background of that phone conversation, the conversion of our voice to from analog to digital. It's being sent over a network, possibly in several different routes, being recombined in the correct order most of the time at the receiving end, and it's doing it well enough that we can tell if the person's happy, if it's sad. I know when I call up my friends and it's like, oh, they're in the middle of a class or in the middle of doing something, they really don't have time for me. I can just tell from the voice they're being nice, but they don't have time for this. And I'll simply say, hey, it's a bad time, I'll call back. Okay, we're seeing on a yearly basis, and especially with the huge an example right now would be the huge increase in remote technologies like Zoom, like Blackboard Collaborate, and some new ones that are coming down the pike and being tried out now as people realize that what an on-demand market it is, and how much potential there is. And this goes, okay, we looked at those salaries a little bit ago. This goes actually for job demands. I just saw something in the Wall Street Journal that while some employment fields are having some problems, there are some fields that they can't find workers fast enough. People originating, and they're not necessarily what you think they would be. People trying to get remote mortgage originators. Amazon's hiring through the anything having to do with the internet or cloud, or the record sales in computers and tablets and phones, that mean that companies need increasing numbers of people to help support that and troubleshoot it and all the rest. This includes things like portable information appliances, and just the internet itself is seeing much more use than it did a year ago this time. There's also something called the Gartner hype cycle. Okay, Very, very commonly when something is developed, there's a tendency to talk it up and, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the expectations of it you can tend to go up quite a bit. And you see this, when something is first developed, the innovation trigger, and then you move to the peak of inflated expectations. Everybody says it's just the greatest thing ever. And then we slide into, as reality sets in, there's a little bit of disillusionment. And then as technology continues to improve and the bugs get worked out, we have what we call the slope of enlightenment, and then as it actually becomes useful, and a case in point would be location intelligence, GPS capabilities are actually getting to be useful instead of just a really cool thing to theoretically be able to do. Speech recognition for computing devices and predictive analytics as we increasingly figure out what people are going to do. Kind of an interesting thing. The vote, the national vote occurs every 4 years, and we've gone from people just blindly calling anybody, for a survey, to where political parties and political polls are increasingly trying to target not just registered voters, but likely voters, people who have voted in the past, because those are going to give you the most accurate predictions, hopefully, of what's going to happen in an upcoming vote. Mobile information technology, okay? Experts like to say that tablet PCs are just past the peak of inflated expectations. I think they're more like, they're actually rising. Although I'll be the first to tell you, okay, and we'll see this a little bit on, that I think that that in the ongoing quest for the newest and the greatest, some really, really good devices have been left behind that are actually pretty cool. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. Wearable computing devices are at the peak of inflated expectations, or maybe just a little bit past that. You're not hearing much about them anymore. Mobile devices have overtaken PCs as their primary web access device. And I know that every semester I get a couple students that they don't say anything to me, that I know what I'm doing, and they try to do this class, the labs in particular, using their phones. And then they usually, after 2 or 3 weeks, say, it's just not working, I need a computer. Okay. Currently, there is a 95% mobile penetration rate worldwide, and it does not mean that 95% of the people in the world have their own phone, okay, or a laptop. What it does mean, by the UN standard of mobile penetration, when a village, and we don't realize in many cases just how well we have it in this country, in the world, when a village somewhere has 3 cell phones per 100 people, that counts as mobile penetration for the village. Okay? And we found that by 2015, mobile app development projects outnumbered desktop PC projects by a ratio of 4 to 1, reflecting the fact that there's a lot more that can be done with mobile development projects. I just recently downloaded OBD, onboard diagnostic app, from my smartphone that allows me to leave permanently plugged into my car an OBD device, and then I can just check on my phone and see how my car is doing. Did I need it? No. But it was only $10. So it's like, yeah, I can do this for $10. $10 is, just that's what I spend. I just won't have lunch one day this week. I can spend that kind of money. Okay? Things that we can generally agree on include the fact that security and privacy concerns are key challenges, but also they are highly in demand from a hiring standpoint, and there's great money to be involved. Context awareness is a key factor for interaction and delivery, especially for voice recognition. That a key goal of mobile services is to enable real-time decision-making at the point of interaction. By 2015, 20% of sales organizations use tablets as their primary platform for field sales. And it's not just for sales. If you've ever had UPS or FedEx deliver a package, they're using tablets and taking pictures just to verify delivery of their device. So when someone says, I never got it, say, well, here's a picture of it at your door, or here's a picture of it where somebody's actually opening the door to pick it up, and it kind of looks like you. It makes it harder for someone to challenge the delivery. On the other hand, sometimes if they deliver it at the wrong address, that's kind of nice too, because yes, they have a picture, yes, and that is not my address. That's my building, that's my house number, but that's the wrong street, and it's like, oops. Okay. We also have seeing some new forms of computing, new forms of development. We're seeing a growth and increase in what we call wireless computing, nomadic computing, mobile computing, ubiquitous computing, pervasive computing, and invisible computing. And these tend to all overlap. You can't just pin one down and say this means this, and it doesn't. There's no overlap with any of these other terms or concepts. When we talk about mobile computing, we're talking about using small-sized portable computers, handhelds, smartphones, and other small wearable devices. Okay, we use these for running standalone applications like wireless networks, like my diagnostics on my car, or the package delivery that FedEx or UPS uses, or the systems they use when the doctor wanders around the hospital with his tablet. And they're used by nomadic and mobile users, animals, agents, trains. Yeah, I just saw something very interesting for sale, Amazon Prime sale on a GPS capability. You put it on, you add it to your dog's collar or your cat's collar, and you can see where they are all the time. And it's like, that is really cool. And if they can do it for pets, it's just a matter of time. If we're, really, honestly, I could take the same thing when my kids were like 2, 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. I'd put it on them because I would want to know where they were all the time. Sometimes their ability to just, if I were to blink and they'd be gone, could be just amazing sometimes. Okay, and when we talk about nomadic, mobile, and ubiquitous computing, we're talking about the devices where with work you can get done without a network. And I actually, one of the reasons, case in point, don't own stock in Microsoft. But one of the things I like about Office 2016, 2019 over the 365 is that with 2016, 2019, I can get work done like this presentation I'm doing right now. I don't have to have an internet, which is good when my kids are on schoolwork doing their meetings and stuff like that. Also, we have fixed networks and we have fixed wireless networks like we see at the various free Wi-Fi capability. I still remember a couple of times when we lost our Wi-Fi. I'm still not quite sure why. Not a problem. We ranted and raved, and after 5 minutes we said okay, and we just hopped in the car and we went down to McDonald's, and we did all the stuff we needed to do at McDonald's while we loaded up on McDonald's food. So they were happy because we were buying their product, and we were happy because we were able to get work done. Oh, I remember what it was. Our heat went out last winter, and we were freezing to death. The repair guy couldn't get there until like the next day. So we just hopped in the car. We went to McDonald's where we were warm and had food. And mobile computing, of course, focuses on a wireless network of some type, either A or B. Another view of ubiquitous computing simply is an all-encompassing term for the various types of computing that a person can use, okay, and it's all considered to be ubiquitous. And this is all supported by a very impressive, and again, we tend not to think about wireless infrastructure, and I want to stress to you that, and we're seeing this especially now, with the huge surge in people's expectations with remote computing demands because of our current situation, that to install and support the wireless infrastructure for this and maintain it and service it, some large number of jobs, pay is pretty decent, working conditions tend to be pretty good. Okay, and another way to look at it is this, and this chart doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to you, okay, but it will by the end of the class, and if you go ahead and take our CIS 210 class, it will make a whole lot more sense to you then. And understanding this chart and how it all and what all these terms mean, okay, and how they all interrelate, is a big way, put you a long way toward being able to hold down the type of job that pays really well and is really big demand. Okay, we're also seeing what we call network convergence, 2, 3, 4, and now 5G mobility bandwidth trade-offs. And 5G is going to be kind of interesting because it's going to be a little bit like when computers started having 4, 6, 8, up to 32 cores. Yes, the capability is there, okay? But for most people, dual core, quad core, or single core in our smartphones is all we really need. So yes, you can have, for example, 4G, 5G, if you want it, but for most people, 3G, 4G is really like all they need, and they don't really need to go any further, depending on your particular needs and what resources you're using. And of course, the wireless network overlay is a little bit like that wired network infrastructure. Same thing, except for wireless. Okay, it's becoming, more demands are being placed on it, more jobs, more pay, more opportunities. Case in point, in Europe, we're seeing whole cities, and a problem with this is that it does have to be paid for. But we're seeing whole cities where basically every city block they're putting a wireless hotspot, so that anywhere in the city a person is going to have wireless capability. Basically it's going to be like the roads. Everybody can use the wireless, just like everybody can use the roads. The public tax is going to pay for it. Okay. And we are seeing, and again, this is something we go into in more detail in CIS 210, the Universal Mobile Telecom Standard, okay, which gets us back to things like the OSI. Just like we have standards for car tires, okay, when you go out and go shopping for a tire for your car, you want to make sure that it's a tire model that is going to fit on your car. And if you need a rim, then you want to make sure the rim is the right type of size, it's the right number of holes, yada yada this, yada yada that. Because if it doesn't conform to the standard for your car, okay, you don't want it. Same thing for the standards that companies basically work on, invent, and produce products for, both software and hardware. They want to make sure they conform to the applicable standards so that they will work as seamlessly as possible with all the other devices and software out there. Which gets us into the concept of laptops, notebooks, sub-notebooks, and net notebooks. Okay? Been around for a while, continue to develop. The first RISC PC was actually back in the 50s with Dick Tracy, but it was only in a cartoon. There was never really anything like that. We actually now have a RISC PC like this, and yes, it's really kind of neat and kind of cool. Kind of kludgy, though, in terms of the ability to actually get things done. I think as voice recognition gets to be better, I'm already finding myself controlling the lights and setting alarms and stuff like that using Google Home. And I can see something like Alexa or Google being used very easily as part of a more advanced type of RISC computer. Okay, in 2001, Japan's PHS phone with verbal commands debuted, and it was a little bit kludgy, but it basically points the way to the future. Yes, it is really more trouble than it's worth, but it helps us get to where at some point down the road, I think we'll be using just voice commands. And again, Alexa and Google, I think, are pointing the way to do a lot more things than they're capable of doing now. Case in point, if you're driving and you want to call somebody, you don't have to look up a phone. You say, if your system will support it, and you've blown into how to get, the instruction set to get it done, you can simply tell your phone to call so-and-so and have a conversation with them, or leave a message for them, or order batteries or whatever. Okay? And of course that gets into an amazingly wide range of things, everything from the form factor for the earphone, how it's going to work, how useful it's going to be. Okay? And that gets us into, when we talk about phones, wearable computers, which had a lot of hype a few years ago in 2015, 2016, and now the expectations have kind of left. Again, they proved the concept, the technology is lagging, but we'll give it time, and I think it'll get there. And we're seeing one evolution is what we call the wearable personal computer, where it's not actually mounted on your head. Possibly the voice is mounted on your head, but the computer itself with the voice commands is mounted maybe around your belt. Okay, or possibly a wireless helmet. You see that in virtual reality. My son's kind of agitating for Christmas. He'd like something like that. And if, for those of you that want to do it, if you were to go into the Outer Limits series, The Soldier, which is on YouTube, you'll see a very early 1950s depiction of a wireless helmet that the soldier is, using, as part of his, body armor as he runs around, before he's sent back to our time to be looked at. And case in point, where we are today. This was in the Chicago Tribune not that long ago. The University of Illinois is actually working with the Department of Defense to work on sensors, cameras, weapons, and vehicles, all being able to collect and transmit data so that the commanders in the command post know what's going on and realistically what can be accomplished. We, at the extreme small end of it, not necessarily less powerful, but small end of it, we are seeing power rings and magic wands, okay, that are basically using digital technology to allow people to use rings to just get things done. The ring detects what your finger is doing, okay, just like if you were actually typing on a keyboard or issuing a computer command, okay. You have a virtual keyboard in front of it. And again, does it work well right now? Not so much, but the proof of concept is there, okay? And proof of this is seen in the various types of mobile computing platforms. We see everything from our smartphones to our tablets to our glasses to the iPad, which my kids are using for school, to the Android, to MyView. And again, these things are not necessarily usable right now, but they are proof of concept and they're getting better all the time. Which just gets us into the competition between the various companies in both in this country and around the world for advances in the smartphone and the pad. Smartphones come in various ways. My daughter loves her Apple. I personally can't stand. I like the Apple. And I appreciate their dedication to security. But sometimes, I'm not going to lie to you, working with an Apple is just a pain in the ass. It is just amazingly tough to do. But it is what it is. Okay. Something I think very much worth doing is what we call is go to netmarketshare.com and you can actually see the market share of the various types of phones. Notice that the iPhone and Android pretty much dominate the mobile market, but it doesn't mean they're going to continue to dominate. And if you include the other types of Androids, 5, 4, 5, and 6, because there are some people, they're happy with their phone, they use it, it tends to dominate market share, with the iPad having about 30%. Tablets continue to be reinvented in a number of ways. And of course, the beneficiaries of all this development include commuters, travelers, stock traders, medical, law enforcement, package delivery, education like we're doing right now, insurance, emergency tracking, emergencies, trucking, intelligence, and military. I know that in the summer, for education, for example, I don't have to be at home to do this. I can go out to the marina where my sailboat's on the slip, and I can get whatever work I need to get done while I wait for the wind to come up and go sailing. Really kind of neat and really kind of cool. Now, there are some limitations of mobile computing. It's not perfect. There are problems. There's what we call a heterogeneity of fragmented networks. There's a lot of networks, but we don't have in this state, in most cities, in most places in this country, a universal, seamlessly integrated network. We have a lot of little fragmented networks. My daughter will, a lot of times when we're going somewhere, she'll basically hop from Wi-Fi spot to Wi-Fi spot to get things done. And of course, if you've ever been running down the road, or if you have Sprint, I know when I had Sprint for my phone service, I could step across Roosevelt Avenue, north to south, downtown, and I just knew I was going to lose connection between the two. It was just a handoff from one tower to the other. It was very, very irritating. It never worked right. And there's a couple places on your state, same thing. It's just the way it is, because there are some, oopsies in there. There are limitations imposed by mobility. Battery charging is a good example of that. Anytime we go someplace, as well as planning the trip around, making sure the dogs get taken care of and that the mail doesn't pile up at the house, have to think about, okay, do we have our chargers? Do I want to bring some extra batteries for my laptop? In case we're going to go someplace like the beach where there is no charger. We have to think these things through. Frequent disconnections can be of a number of types, as defined on this chart here. Can be your battery drained, battery recharge downtime. I actually have like 4 spare batteries for my favorite laptop, so that if we go someplace with the kids and there's either no internet connect, no electricity, or if they're having a problem, the electricity's down, I can just keep swapping out batteries and keep getting my work done, just to be safe. Limited bandwidth, limited bandwidth communication capability is something else. The bandwidth is not always going to be perfect. Sometimes it's the hardware. Sometimes it's the type of the connection and how many people are sharing it. And again, these are problems that further fuel the demand for the people to support the demand. As long as people are going to want services and be willing to pay for it, they're going to be hiring people and paying them good money. Okay, to help support, maintain service, support, and develop the capability for them to do what they want to do. Some of the problems of mobile computing in particular have to do with short battery lifetime, theft and destruction. My favorite laptop, I deliberately have the cover of it doesn't affect it. I have it looking kind of gunky. Nothing wrong with it. I deliberately want it looking gunky because I don't want people to look and say, "Oh, that's something cool. That's something I want to steal." It's actually a very nice Frankenpad, but it looks like a POS. And I want that deliberately because I want people to say, nobody's going to want that. I'm not going to steal that. Okay. Some of the other limitations imposed by mobility include a lack of mobility awareness by some of our applications or us. For example, if you're using a Bluetooth utility, it's only going to work within 10 meters, 33 feet. They're deliberately designed to work just that far, no further. And a lack of mobility awareness by the system or the person. Okay. Other things we're going to talk about include smartphone functions and features, cell phones, feature phones, processors, and operating systems. Memory, okay. When we're talking about our phones in particular, it's important to understand that the more memory you have, the better the better your phone is going to operate. Sometimes spending a little bit more money on more RAM is better than saving a little money and then being hampered in the things you want to do. You also want to think about your operating system. It's usually going to be burned into read-only memory, unlike a computer, where the BIOS is in a read-only memory, and then it will load the operating system. Okay, because the phone has everything in the phone has to be in a much smaller, more portable package, and the data is generally going to be stored in separate internal memory chips. Input devices on a phone include the microphone and the touchpad, and the output devices include the speaker, the display of either liquid crystal or the OLED type. Okay. They're going to work on either a cellular network, which requires a base transceiver station and a mobile switching center, and they implement what we call digital processing. The analog, every time you speak into a phone, your analog voice is being converted into digital for it to either send to somebody or for it to understand your command. Okay. All phones are computers, and all phones work on what we call the Internet Protocol, and they specifically transmit voice using what we call the Voice over Internet Protocol, VoIP. This is very powerful, and this is something we get into more in CIS 210, and I'd really encourage you to think about taking that because it really, really can be very helpful. Of course, the advantages of smartphones and using voice over IP is that calls can be placed anywhere with internet access. I could be on my boat, or my friends could be on their boat, and offshore a mile or less, and we could actually send and receive calls. Really kind of neat, kind of cool. Generally free and very portable. The disadvantages include the sound quality and reliability, the loss of service at home if the power is out, and the security risks. Phones are generally less secure than a well-designed and well-implemented computer system because most people neither know nor care until, like Paris Hilton, their phone is hacked and all their phone numbers are stolen and their friends all start getting spam emails from a hacker just to show that it can be done. Another nice thing about smartphones is they generally have a GPS capability built into them, which automatically gives a precise location. This system is actually built and operated by the U.S. Department of Defense, just like the interstate system. But we use it for, most people I know use it for just navigating around, especially when they're going someplace they're not familiar with, or as we all know, in the region during, we have winter and then we have the summer, which is our construction season. Things you want to think about if you're using your phone with other devices and synchronizing them. You may or may not want to do that. It can be handier, but the trade-off is it can be less secured. Is it going to be wired or wireless capability? You're going to flip between the two, or just depend on the wireless? And how are you going to store your data through the USB port or a flash card of some type? Excuse me. They also have texting, which we all know and love, which we SMS, short text messages, up to 160 characters. That's currently being revised to up to 260. 320. But it's not implemented everywhere yet. It's convenient and quick. When I'm taking my kids shopping or picking them from school, I find it very very handy. Bear in mind that the connection speed for your phones is going to depend on the technology you're using. Okay, 4G is better than 3G, but 3G might be all you need. 5G will be better than 4G, but, and this is something that's come up, 5G is going to cost us an amount of money to implement 5G, and while they're doing it, the $64 special is the demand for it going to be there, or are most people going to be basically happy because they need to be met with 4G, because 5G, it's got to be paid for. And people may say, yes, it's really nice, but I don't really need it. Which gets us into tablets. Okay, one step up from smartphones. They are full-fledged mini computers with their own operating system, their own processors, their touchscreen interfaces, a longer battery life, getting better all the time. Similar software applications to the full-fledged desktops and desktop computers, and similar internet connectivity, and they generally have a Bluetooth capability, which also gets into two-in-ones, okay, which are laptop computers that combine a tablet with a keyboard. They can be either a laptop and as well as a tablet. They're more expensive than a tablet, but they almost always will have a more powerful CPU. They are handicapped a little bit over a laptop or a desktop in terms of CPU speed and screen size, but they're really pretty good. In my personal opinion on it, I think that the IBM X220 and X301 series ThinkPads, okay, from actually 5 to 10 years ago, are actually, those can be tweaked. I'm recording this on an X220 tablet right now with 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is plenty for a computer. And it's a nice little computer for mobile computing purposes. Okay, and they're on eBay. You can get them for $100 with an operating system and Microsoft Office installed. That's really kind of hard to beat. And it goes anywhere, and they're built like tanks. My own personal opinion, not selling them, but I do collect them. It moves us up to Ultrabooks, which are generally your full-featured computers. There's a trade-off between portability versus capability, but they are very, very capable. Bear in mind, the keyboards, and this is true for tablets, are not designed for hours and hours and hours of continuous use. They're designed for use it for less than an hour, take a break, use it for less than an hour. Those keyboards are functional for the device. They are not necessarily best for you. Okay? When you're looking at buying any type of computing device, you want to think about what fits your personal needs, just like buying a car. It doesn't matter what the deals are. What is best for you? If you're going to be starting a moving company, a smart car, smart car, a 2.4 smart car is not what you want. You want a truck. Okay. Same thing with computers. The impact, especially in our current situation of digital technology, has been enormous. E-readers. We have, I think, 5 Kindles running around my house. Everyone's got one. Then we have a couple of backups just in case. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the library, Project Gutenberg, which has a huge number of books that have been digitized, as well as LibriVox.org, which has those same books, public domain. People have volunteered their time to read them and as audio files, so you can download them for free and listen to them in the car when you get tired of listening to the commercials on the radio. Okay, digital music, again, it's analog to digital converters becoming more and more ubiquitous and becoming more and more common. You do need to pay attention to digital rights management. People every year are sued in every city by the Business Software Alliance Consortium, as well as the federal government. And it's not that they plan to get their money back, those individuals. They do it. And the last one here in Chicago was convicted of downloading and distributing a song the person really liked 33 times, and it was $500,000 per time. But they know she doesn't have that kind of money. But she got hit with a $30,000 fine that the student's going to have to pay back, over the next few years, against her earnings. It's not going away anytime soon, because they were basically not paying attention to copyright, and they should have been. Okay, they were stealing, in a nutshell. You also want to take a look at the impact that digital technology is having on cameras. Okay, they're getting more and more capable all the time, which gets us into all the things we've talked about. And we've gone on a little bit longer than we normally do. I apologize. We've talked about digital convergence, the difference between analog and digital signals, the technologies used to communicate across cellular networks, cellular devices and mobile internet access, and how to keep your devices secure, the range of different mobile computing devices, and evaluating which mobile device is appropriate for you, e-readers, how to purchase, borrow, and publish e-text legally, digital music is created, how digital music is created and stored, and how to stream and publish digital music legally. And I'd like to, just highlight there. I'm amazed at the number of people that publish stuff on YouTube, and they have 100,000, they have 1 million subscribers, and all they do is do videos of their dog or whatever. And they're making one guy in New York City likes to just 2 or 3 times a week will just talk about whatever. He has over 1 million subscribers. He's making over $500,000 a year just on his hobby of, I think it's Louis Rossman. He's a very intelligent guy, very smart, and he's making $500,000 a year just talking about whatever flips his fancy, or he happens to notice what's going on in New York City. Creating, printing, and sharing digital photographs, and creating and editing, distributing digital video. Okay, extra credit this week. Choose either how to evaluate which mobile device is appropriate for a specific user, or how to create, edit, and distribute digital video. And I strongly urge you to think about, dip your foot in the water and start a YouTube channel and just go through the steps. You might find that it's pretty cool. And if you do either of those, submit them in assignment 14 for extra credit. Okay, things to think about. You want to read through Chapter 8 in the textbook. You're going to be needing that information for the final exam. The midterm exam, still got a few people that need to get it in. You need to do that. You need to get in Excel Chapters 1, 2, and 3 labs. And this week, we're working on Excel Chapter 4. And next week, the Excel lab quiz is in your future. Subject to any questions you have, you can contact me online, and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you.